ordinary citizens generally, people of color more specifically, and very more specifically, African Americans to have that right to participate as they're due as American citizens.
Attorney General, I want to read this quote from a Republican strategist in Louisiana that was given to Liz Crampton over at my old shop, Politico. It is an unmitigated sugar honey iced tea show fever dream. Talking about Louisiana in 2 days before canceling their primaries, even though people had already started to vote in absentee. I saw that and I was disturbed by it, because the way that you just talked about the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, who it impacts, why everyone should care about it, not just Black people, who it impacts disproportionately, and hearing all of this glee on the Republican side about doing that to people, about, according to probably you and a lot of other election experts, creating more second-class citizenry in this country. And I'm curious, when you hear quotes like that from Republican strategists, what goes through your head?
Well, I think he's saying the quiet part out loud. That's exactly what it is that they are trying to do. The Republican Party, or too many in the Republican Party, have made peace with the notion that when it comes to popular support, they're going to be a minority party. They're not going to get the majority of the votes, but they're going to have the majority of the power. And yeah, this is most acutely directed at people of color, and as I said, African Americans, but all Americans need to be concerned about this, because the Supreme Court saying, well, you know, we're going to take this tool away from you when it comes to racial gerrymandering, but it's okay. If you engage in partisan gerrymandering, that affects every American. That decreases the ability of every American citizen to participate in our democracy. That allows politicians to pick their voters, as opposed to American citizens choosing who their representatives ought to be. So this isn't just a Black thing. This isn't just a Hispanic thing. This is also something that ought to concern every American. And what they're doing is inconsistent with our notions of the American people deciding the policy directions of this nation, the American people deciding what kind of America we're going to have. They want to consign that responsibility, that ability to a distinct minority.
Given the power grab that you just laid out, as the chairman of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, what do you do next, given everything that we're hearing from all of these GOP-led states about efforts to continue to redraw their maps?
Well, we certainly try to find litigation ways in which we can, even given what the Supreme Court has said, when they said that we couldn't, bring partisan gerrymandering cases in federal courts, we said, all right, we'll bring those cases in state courts, and we've been wildly successful there. We've unwound a lot of the gerrymanders that they put in place in 2011. Beyond that, I think the ultimate goal has to be for Congress to pass legislation that bans partisan gerrymandering, that bans racial gerrymandering, that puts into place those reforms that were contained in the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which got out of the House of Representatives the last time, didn't pass the Senate because you couldn't get past the filibuster, largely because Senators Manchin and Sinema decided that they did not want to vote to reform the rules. And so the next time there is that ability by Democrats, if we have the presidency as well as the House and the Senate, got to use that power. One of the things that just kind of gets me is that progressives and Democrats have a reluctance, an uncomfortability with the acquisition and the use of power. And Republicans don't have those problems. Conservatives don't have those problems. And so the next time we have that power, we need to use it, not for the special interests, as Republicans have done, but in service to the American people. Roosevelt didn't have any problem using power. Johnson didn't have any problem using power. Obama didn't have any problems using power. The next time we have that capacity, that ability, we have to use it.
Attorney General Holder, one of the ways the Trump administration is using power is by weaponizing the Department of Justice. Just look at what Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has done in the re-indictment, a second indictment against former FBI Director James Comey. I mean, I can see it for what it is. Lots of people can see it for what it is. But how damaging is it to the department that this is how the Department of Justice is being used not just by the man who wants to get the nod for the top job, but at the direction of the President of the United States?
Yeah, this is obviously destructive of the way in which the Justice Department has normally conducted itself under Republican as well as Democratic attorneys general and presidents. And people need to understand it. This is not normal. What's going on here is not only not normal, it is dangerous. When you have the Justice Department or the Justice Ministry going after the political opponent of the person who is in charge, this is more like Putin in Russia. It's more like Orban in Hungary. It is inconsistent with the way in which the United States has always conducted itself. And it is an attempt to try to chill political opposition. It's a way in which you try to control the opposition. And we've got to push back in every way that we possibly can. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the American people who have enormous amounts of power, more power than I think they realize, to push back against this and to say to this administration, no, we're not going to let you do what you're trying to do. And so the November elections are extremely important. The November elections, the midterms, are a way in which we can put a check in place on of this administration. I really fear, what is an unchecked Donald Trump going to look like over the course of the next 2 years? That's why November really, really matters.
In your answer to Jackie, you kind of, and you tell me if I took it wrong, insinuated that Democrats are maybe uncomfortable with figuring out how to use power in this current day and age. And I wonder what you think, as someone who has sat in the Attorney General's seat,